Good afternoon. My name is Mike Carney, and it's my pleasure this afternoon to interview Mr. Morris Backer, President of the ASHRAE Society in the years 1978 through 79. Morris, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you for stopping by here this afternoon. Thought we'd start with your start in ASHRAE. Can you tell us how you got involved in the work of the Society?
Well, I credit my boss for that involvement, Harry Beauvais. My boss encouraged us to participate in technical society work as well as professional societies. And with that in mind, his encouragement and allowing me to attend meetings and to participate on committee work got me excited about ASHRAE and the things that it's doing for mankind, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of interesting that Harry Beauvais matched his actions with words, not only with words, but by action. He was president of the National Society of Professional Engineers. One of my partners in the company was national president of ASME, so he let us participate.
Well, that's a remarkable heritage, isn't it? Beauvais Consulting Engineers was a consulting engineering firm in Texas with 5 or 6 offices at the time?
That's correct. We had offices at the time in Baton Rouge and Spokane and Albuquerque, Clute, Texas.
Clute, Texas?
Freeport. And our main office in Houston.
In Houston, okay.
Right.
Great. Now, in your years as president, 78, 79, we were involved with an energy crisis at that time. At least we named it a crisis at that time. Can you tell us a little bit about energy as it related to your...
Well, actually, we recognized the need for conservation and proper use of the energy that we had, even before I was president, of course, but it was still a very hot subject, and one that we had great commitment of effort from ASHRAE members. In particular, we were involved in the continuing development of 9075, Standard 9075.
And that's the standard on building energy use? Is
yes,
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we were encouraging various code bodies to take a look at 9075, and indeed many of them in many cities and communities throughout the United States felt it in their best interest to adopt 9075 as their guiding light for energy conservation.
That was a little different for ASHRAE, wasn't it? The writing of a standard with the idea in mind that it would become part of a code, a building code?
Well, we didn't do that for that purpose. We did it for the necessary need, and that it's there if you want to use it, in so many words.
But it influenced the style of writing it, didn't it? It wasn't a prescriptive document. It was a guide.
That's correct.
And if somebody adopted it as a code, it wouldn't be a boilerplate.
And we were concerned and tried to keep it from being tilted toward one industry or the other. There was great difficulty in completing Chapter 12, as I recall, which involved whether the systems were more efficient with electricity as the prime energy or gas as a prime energy source, and how was the electricity generated.
Yes.
Things of this sort.
There was a lot of volatile issues you were dealing with that
Correct.
standard.
There were other things that were brought up in my year, so to speak. There was Congress brought up one that affected us all dearly. EBTR was the acronym, and that's the
Emergency Building Temperature Restrictions.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what it was, and this was the law, I guess, that said in federal buildings in particular that the temperature shall be maintained at this level in the summer and at that level in the winter. And it was pretty much a hot subject across the country.
Mm-hmm. I remember those years because if you remember the movie Patton,
oh yes,
Patton in that movie said, never tell the American fighting man how to do something, just tell him what you need done and he'll get it done. And when we put out those temperature restrictions, we were telling the American people how to do it, and it got kind of lively.
We were not just talking to ourselves during this period of time. We spent a great deal of time talking to our leaders in Washington and any place else that was necessary for our voice to be heard. And of course, this was not for monetary gain. This is for the betterment of our country, mm-hmm. and which is another reason why ASHRAE is so outstanding.
Mm-hmm. That's a common thread and characteristic through these conversations. There was an outfit called BEPS, or a document called BEPS, Building Energy Performance Standard. Now, can you relate that?
I believe that that standard, if you will, was developed by the AIA in connection with I don't know if it was HUD or what government agency, I forget. But with that in mind, that was being pushed as the energy standard for the USA. We had the uphill battle to get 9075 an acceptable alternate to BEPS. And this was accomplished. Mm-hmm. And it worked to our general benefit.
The 9075 was a much more comprehensive document than the BEPS document, was it not?
But performance was not that difficult to achieve using that doctrine.
Okay.
It worked very well. So. And saved a great deal of energy.
Yes, yes. While you were, I don't know how to say that. I always want to say, you have 1 year as president, but it's not just 1 year, is it? There's a whole series of years that go in.
Still going on.
Still going on. Still going on. But in your time in the spotlight, let's say, there was another awareness that came up. We were, at that time, the headquarters of the society was located in New York City.
And ASHRAE was growing in membership. Our member services was increasing. There was just no room to put anybody in our offices in the United Engineering Center. There was no space available for us to increase our square footage, our office space in that location. So we, in recognizing that we needed to do something, we started a study to determine if we should move from United Engineering Center, and if so, where. Should we stay in New York? Should we go to Atlanta? Should we go to Dallas? Should we go wherever it would be best for the society? As you know, we're now located in Atlanta, so the results of that work showed that we were able to move at less cost than we were paying, and it all worked out very well. This was not done necessarily completely in my term of office. I'd give full credit to President at the time following me, Hugh McMillan. He acquired the building for ASHRAE. We purchased the building, had it cleaned up. Everything of a difficult nature was handled by Hugh and his staff of people. I can't say Hugh.
Well, you did the administratively correct thing. You thought you got the idea going and gave it to Hugh to get it done, right?
Well, it didn't work out exactly that way. Of course, as part of the executive committee, McMillan would be aware and contributed to all the planning of ASHRAE during my term. So.
Who worked on that committee with you with regard to the awareness of there might be a need to change the New York City site?
Richard Perry and Bob McDonald and myself. We were in charge of the search committee as to identify which city would best suit our needs. And we started out with about 12 cities in mind and culled down to about 4. And they included, even at that stage, New York City and Washington, D.C., and Dallas and Atlanta. After additional study and homework looking at airlines and looking at what time zone we were in and better serve our members and everything that we thought would be applicable, we came to the decision that, well, it's got to be either Atlanta or Dallas. Then we went to see those cities again and talked with chambers of commerce and others who were delighted to have the opportunity to talk to ASHRAE. Anyhow, as you know, it all ended like a good fairy tale. We have our own business now.
Well, with you and Hugh McMillan both being from Texas, how do we end up over in Georgia?
Well, we missed one.
We missed one.
Messed up on one.
Okay. While you were in the presidency, there was several developments that occurred while you were there. Do you want to sort of highlight things that you're particularly proud of and fond of looking back on that happened while you were in that chair?
Well, we were looking at regional reorganization for one item, and that came about also from something good that was happening. We were growing, and we were unable to service our members anymore to the capacity that we had in the past. A regional chairman had too many chapters to visit, monitor. So we looked at that in a subcommittee format and found that what we needed to do was change from 10 to 12 regions, increase the size of the board by adding 2 new directors at large, and of course 2 more regional chairmen and directors by virtue of the increased number of regions. This again, in time, has proved out to be a good decision. It's working very well.
Is this where St. Louis and Kansas City, that region split apart?
Yes,
because
exactly.
I remember that was a traumatic thing because the geography of that split left the chapter I was in Nashville was in a region that didn't have any chapter nearly as strong as the St. Louis, Kansas City's chapters anymore. And so that they've grown up and evolved and changed.
We had another scary area, which was the West Coast, including Hawaii, and we were concerned, very much concerned, that this would not be accepted. But it was recognized as being necessary, and my own region, Region 8, considered eliminating one of the chapters and moving it to another region, specifically Little Rock, Arkansas. And they said, we're in the Southwest Conference, and so we've got to stay in Texas. Region 8 does have a couple of, or at least a chapter in Shreveport also. So we did. We're in Louisiana anyhow.
Okay. Well, those gerrymandering borderlines is always an exciting topic.
Yes. Yeah.
You also added 3 new chapters. Did you not?
We did. One in Florida, one in South Dakota, and one in Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama.
And they're all still functioning very well.
Yeah.
But that was fun.
Yeah.
We at that time had some 132 chapters, I believe. And I think it's close to 160 now. International chapters in Hong Kong and elsewhere in the world. ASHRAE is a different society than it was 12 years ago since I was president. And much improved one, I should add.
Yes, yes. It must be a very satisfying thing for you to look back on your role in that and see that that was a contributing and stepping stone role.
Yeah, we did this jointly with our membership. It wasn't one person to do these things. We worked together and received input, ideas. It's a very unique society. It's just something special.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about some of the people that you have been particularly enchanted with and influenced by in your role with ASHRAE.
That could take our whole time.
That'd be fine. People is our business.
I think one highlight of ASHRAE's growth and success has been contributions made by several individuals. One in particular, Frank Bridgers. I don't recall what year he was the president, but he came up with the thought, the idea, to have a Presidential Award of Excellence, PAOE now called. This was a scoreboard of activities, so many points or credits for increased membership and increase in research promotion, things of that sort. And that idea has been adopted by every succeeding president since Frank was in office. Mm-hmm. It's not a code requirement. It's not a bylaw requirement ASHRAE to have a PAOE, Presidential Award of Excellence. It's something that's available as a tool which has been supplemented and added to by every succeeding president since Frank. Mm-hmm. There's been some outstanding leaders in the way of Bruno Marabito, who outstanding engineer and great manager, who brought management by objective considerations into ASHRAE, and which again was significant improvements. I mentioned Hugh McMillan earlier, outstanding engineer and leader. Any numbers of them. Walt Spiegel, Bob McDonald, Barney Burris. It's a roll call.
Yes, it is.
Of Hall of Fame people.
Yeah. Can you think back to an anecdote or an incident that you enjoyed and enjoy telling about when you guys get together?
I do recall serving on the executive committee before I was president when Bill Chapman was president in those days. And our executive committee included Bruno Marabito and I think McMillan, Hugh McMillan, and myself and one other, I forget who. But we would work as long as the work was there. And I remember many evenings we stayed till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and Chapman gained a real reputation for being a slave driver. But the pay wasn't all that good.
What is the pay on the board of directors there, those executive committees? What is the pay scale there?
Well, we contribute about $50,000 each a year at a time.
For the honor of staying up to 3 and 4 in the morning, right?
That's right. Didn't even have a deck of cards.
How important is golfing to being on these boards?
Well, there seem to be a lot of golfers on the board, but I don't know that they do win many tournaments or anything.
It's not a prerequisite, is what you're saying.
No, it's not. But there's so many golfers there.
Yeah.
I can begin to tell you.
Well, that's good. As we look back, Morris, and your presidency in the late 70s, from that time, you've seen the society change, and be interested in you focusing or highlighting on changes in the society that you think are significant and would like to highlight.
There are probably 3 items that come to mind. Of course, our work in international scene is probably the largest single change that I would recognize in ASHRAE. We could talk about that some more. The other couple of items are phenomenal growth as a society and our phenomenal growth in research promotion activities and the things that really make ASHRAE what it is today.
Let's go.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Our work in the international arena has been magnified just 100-fold since I was president. While we recognize the need to be part of the world community and not just the United States and Canada, we never really took any positive steps other than making them feel at home. International visitors at our meetings where we would offer language interpretation, not interpret, what am I trying to say?
Well, help them to adjust to a city where they didn't speak the language necessarily.
Correct.
Or they had trouble.
And where they get a cup of coffee and get some help if they got in trouble, or to have a wine party for them. And we've done that a few times as well. We're chartering chapters overseas now, not just in Canada and the United States, but we've got in Australia and I think in Bangkok, Hong Kong, and there's no telling where we're going from this point.
You mentioned the growth of the society itself, the number of people and the services that we're providing.
Well, I heard today there was 52,000 members of ASHRAE. I think that this was a part of Damon's talk.
Yes.
I recall when I went into office as president, there were 32,000 ASHRAE members. It's almost double in these 10 or 12 years. There's got to be some good reasons for that, and the reason prominent is that we're doing a lot of good for a lot of people. And for each of us individually, there's more return in being an ASHRAE member than any other single group that I could think of.
Particularly if you participate, and participate at the level you participated. Not so much at any level, actually. That's right. I don't mean level in hierarchy. I mean just involvement in time.
It's not that these people that push their way up, they've been pulled by people who recognize what they could do for the society. You know, we're just there a year as president. It's, you know, you can hardly do much more than develop what's needed and then work on what was needed before your time and make things happen. So it's kind of hard to say that this belonged to that president, this belonged to another. It belonged to all of us.
Nicely said. You mentioned growth in R&D. I think that's a fascinating aspect of ASHRAE's contribution to society.
Research promotion.
Research and promotion, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, we see the figure Damon threw out today, I believe was $1.5 million in research. Exceeded our goal of contributions by 6%. See, I wasn't sleeping. I listened to it.
And I think, just to me, the nature of those contributions is remarkable. Anybody who's raised money of that order knows you get 4 or 5 big contributors that can contribute 80%. ASHRAE is absolutely different than that.
We're having a good time at it. The people are recognizing the need and the good that's being done, and that's just what it's all about.
And it's all coming from the membership and the grassroots, $50, $100, $250 a piece. That's the bulk of the
great majority. Money comes from that.
Yeah.
The Austin, Texas chapter was honored by its research promotion chairman achieving the William
Bullion Award?
Not like Bill Bullion, but Bill Collins Award for research promotion. And Bill really is the one that started this thing off. And he lit the rocket, and everybody grabbed onto it, and it's gone out of sight. Really done well. The things that happen from the research projects is that we develop technical papers. These are disseminated at our society meetings, and then into our permanent literature, into our handbooks, used worldwide.
And there's talk now of putting these papers that are presented at meetings like this on CD or discs, such that you have computer access for a large library of this information.
We're also translating our handbooks into other languages, specifically Spanish, I think. Others are in progress but not completed.
Well, it's an exciting heritage, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think we've reached the time where we should perhaps wrap this up and close. Would you like to give us something in closing, some observation or memory that you particularly like to have other people know about?
Well, from a personal gain standpoint, maybe I will say that there is some personal gratification in knowing people worldwide. I can go in any city, I believe, without exception, and look in the phone book and call somebody that I know from ASHRAE. And it's just a beautiful, it's not just somebody I know, it's a friend, a true friend. I recall in my consulting work in the South, I had a project that I needed to put a snow melting system in the driveway and in the sidewalks around the building. Well, I've never designed a snow melting system in Houston, Texas, but I could read the literature and found that, lo and behold, Bill Chapman was the head guru who wrote all of the papers during the years on how you put a snow melting system in. I called him by phone, spent an hour on the phone. He thoroughly explained to me how to do everything, told me where I could get more data, sent me a pile of papers that he had written. You know, it cost me a lunch. I saw Bill. I don't know if that's an anecdote, but it's beautiful. It's a blessing to have these kinds of people as friends. And I mean, they're big people.
Yes. Big in heart and soul. And I'm glad to have friends like that. I can't think of a more appropriate ending for our conversation. Good. It's a good place to make friends and to have them. Thank you, Morris, for being here, and thank you for serving the society and your fellow man through ASHRAE. Thank you.